Welcome back to the Quest for Success podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. Many of you know, Jam has been doing the Harvard OPM course for the past 2 years. And during this time, he's had exposure to some of the world's greatest entrepreneurs. And one of these entrepreneurs, he was actually over in Sydney 2 weeks ago, I think, and we had the pleasure of spending an entire day with him, taking around some of Sydney's greatest sites, and during that time, we got to understand who he is and a bit about his story. And Jam and I both thought, man, this guy would be great to have on the podcast. He's so positive and bubbly, and we'd love to share his energy. And so today we have on Mr. Florian. Florian, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Florian.
Hi.
So we have Florian Christ from Germany joining us. He's one of my cohorts from Harvard Business School, the course that I'm doing, OPM. And Florian is a serial entrepreneur and tech enthusiast or tech investor. And lovely to have you.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for this wonderful introduction. I think it's way too big, but I really appreciate that you spend time with me. Thank you.
No, I mean, that's a very high level introduction, and we want to know more about you. And so the very first question that we ask from everyone.
We have an opening tradition, and the whole idea of this podcast is to understand what success means to different people. And so I'd like to start on that point. Florian, what does success mean to you?
Oh, that's a really good question, and I tried to keep it short, but I think it's not as easy because it changed over time. So I think for today, success means for me to have a bunch of people around me and we create something together as a team, and we have a lot of fun in doing it. And the product we create should help us and many people, as many as we can reach, to improve, to simplify their life, to help them in their day-to-day life. So success means to have impact, a positive impact, something which generates value for people and helps people. But creating this success, we need passion, joy, fun, and enjoying doing something what is new for us. So I think for nowadays, today, that's my definition of success.
Yeah. So what you're thinking, it's more like a moving thing, the success. Success today may not be the success tomorrow. And it's about creating that fulfillment for others, like giving, again, achieving like something that positive impact to other people, right? So that's, is that a good way to look at it? Yeah. So
yes. Yeah. So success means, in my early life, success might be doing something which is on my checklist or achieving something, a tough goal, a stretch goal. But nowadays it changed for me in these different things. Like it has to be a teamwork thing. I like to create something with people together, and I like to see how people grow, achieving the success. That's one thing which is really important for me. And on the other side, to strive for really tough things, which has an impact for many. So these two components make it even more enjoyable to have success.
Yeah. So you're talking about that early journey, your success looked different to now. This is what we are here today. We wanted to really understand, Florian, like, how you started your journey. And yes, we done some introduction, but we really like to know, we like to hear from you exactly what you do, and give us a little bit of introduction to yourself, please.
Sure. So I'm Florian, 47 years old, married, 2 kids, living in Germany, lovely Germany. And I started my journey quite early when I was 18 and before. I started my first company in serving all the companies around with IT. So it was in the 90s. IT still not usable for many. So, and I helped to introduce that. And 20 years later, I started my second company. So I had, in the meanwhile, several jobs to explore different areas of the world. And with my latest company or bunch of companies, I try to build software which helps our partner companies to improve and especially improve with their end customers. So I started a handful or two of software companies, always following the same pattern in creating, using technology and data, creating a great product which simplifies our life. So that's basically the background. And today, I think around 200 people are working in all these companies. And what I really love, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, is to trust all the people and to give them the freedom to create their own stories within our startups, within our companies. Though that's really something which is driving me. So again, a 20 years journey in a nutshell. I would love to dive into it, depending on your questions.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly right. We wanted to dive in a little bit more. Why, like why Florian decided to go into technology? Is there any reason for you to get into more technology solutions?
Yeah. So basically, the cornerstone for the whole development is based on my parents. So my father started building software in the late 70s, early 80s. So when I was young, I already got in touch with all the computer stuff. And I was passionate and curious, hey, what's going on there? So I dived into it. One of my first jobs next to school was assembling computers. And I recognized, hey, what seems to be easy for me isn't easy for all the existing companies. So that was a reason. During school, I decided, okay, I have to start my own company next to school to serve all the companies around me with IT. So assembling, building networks, introducing them how to use a computer to automate and simplify day-to-day processes. So, but the inspiration was more or less my father, who opened me in world to understand how do company think, how do people in company think, what can I do with computers and software in my early childhood.
Yeah, so this is Florian when you're 18, right? So you saw opportunity
Yeah.
there, like, you can solve a problem. And
Yes.
you have that entrepreneurial spirit when you're in that young age. I guess that come from your father, right?
Oh yes, both, but both my parents. So
Oh, yeah.
my father was the engineer, but nevertheless, my mother did all the back office administration and financials. So it was a teamwork thing, but
Yeah.
both worked entrepreneurial. Yes.
It's probably good you got the both sides, right? You got to see, the engineering logical brain and then the back office, and you probably learnt from both of them. So,
Oh yes.
you started this first company. Talk us through taking that leap, because it's being 18. It's not an easy or normal thing to just go and start a company. How did that go?
Um, Honestly spoken, it was way simpler at these days compared to sometimes thinking it through in today's life. So Real story, I was sitting in school in a class. It was not the most interesting class. So I tore a picture, or I tore the logo of a company, the logo of my first company. And after
All right.
I finished the logo, I decided, oh, now I have a logo, so I should get a company. So after school, I went to the city hall and asked, hey, I want to have a company. So I had to fill one form and pay 35 Deutschmark at this time. And I had my company. So done. It
Yep.
was a matter of one day. And afterwards, I decided, okay, now I have a company. What can I do? I already worked in the environment of assembling computers and selling. So I just did the same what I did for others in my own name with my own company. And I did it always after school. So in the morning I went to school, and in the afternoon I sold computers and served companies and consulted them. So it was for me just a flow, and diving into it. It was not a big topic in terms of I have to create something, I have to start something. It just happened, and I think I
Yep.
might have a easy start because my father did software. He had a
Yep.
bunch of companies, and many of them trusted me as 18-year-old boy um,
Yeah.
to serve them and help them with their computers. And
Yeah.
that worked quite good.
Yeah. So this is a good lesson. I guess someone like Dylan, he just started his own enterprise. Just the stage that he's in now. He left work to start his business, and it's early days. He's just discovering himself, as we discuss, Florian, when you're here in Australia. Sometimes it's not the idea what matters. It's actually you get out there and actually doing it, right? So
Yes.
you've proven that, right?
Oh, yes. A-
Yeah.
And you listen to, so my first company I had for nearly 10 years, 9.5 years. During school, during
Wow.
university, I did an MBA later. So I always tried to educate myself to learn more about how companies work. But I focused and I grew my companies. I had my first employees after a few years. But as you mentioned, Jem, it was always a little planned and pushed by myself, but I listened to the market. Where are the needs? So a few years later, in the first years, it was assembling and selling computers. Then it was setting up networks and introducing people how to automate processes. Again, a few years later, it was internet arriving, how to use internet, email for new communication, and how to expand company reach. So I helped the first companies to go to Brazil, for example, and how to establish internet connections and secure communications between two sites. And I learned and learned and learned together with my customers. And I
Yeah.
couldn't
Yeah.
plan this because it's all these new things involved, and I just followed.
Yeah. So pretty much opportunities will come when you're listening to your customers and also understanding the trends, right? That's
Yeah,
that's the reason for your success, I guess.
yeah,
And do you think it's also, you know, as you said, the technology was kind of new, and so the customers didn't really know, and like you didn't really know as well, and so you were kind of, as you said, working together, and so
yes.
you were kind of cutting edge as well, and so you kind of had an opportunity there because there wasn't many other people in the market who were doing a similar thing.
Oh yes, oh yes. And I had a huge benefit, Dylan. You have as well. I had nothing to lose. I could only grow and expand because I was in school. I didn't need really a lot of money to live. core basic living. So, and if I would make something wrong, which I luckily didn't, I cannot fall deeply because it's still growing. So
Yeah.
it was really an easy way of learning, of expanding myself, because there was no risk to lose something.
Yeah. Yeah. Apart from you're listening to your customers and looking at the trends, any other thing that you've done kind of differently or done you think that helped you to kind of for your growth?
Oh yes, I think why did companies believe in an 18 or 20-year-old after a while, 20-year-old boy? So when I sometimes look around to friends, would I really trust them to build the core infrastructure of my technology, of my IT?
Yeah.
And I'm not always sure about that. I think I wrote my commitment really figuring things out, making them suitable for my clients. So not
Yeah.
standard IT. Um, I made it personalized, customized for all the needs of my clients, and they really love the engagement and the partnership on eye level. Um,
Yeah.
and they all also teach me in their businesses. So I learned
Yeah.
really a lot about how these entrepreneurs, for me, old
Yep.
entrepreneurs, are running their business. How do they care about their employees and so on and so forth. So it was a win-win giving
Yep.
relationship, and I think that's what they respected, that I was not a standard company coming,
Yep.
delivering, leaving, not interested in what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and that's
you kind of identify their problems and trying to. So I mean, you started as a hardware business and then you pivoted from hardware into more software, right?
yes.
Is that part of the same discussion that we are talking about, learning from them, understanding their problems, and what made you decided to pivot from hardware to software?
Um, yes. So it was a two steps pivot. So
Yeah.
I first pivoted in my first company, so still being a
Yeah.
young man, and second, the biggest pivot when I started 9 years ago, my new companies, which are only software. But the pivot was you
Okay.
can create more value. You can create
Yeah.
more value with software compared to hardware these days. Hardware was
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
necessary infrastructure, but to improve a company, to make a company better, you need to go in the processes, you need to automate things, and therefore it was necessary to build software. And when I started my second company, it was a whole mind shift for myself. I didn't think it through, but it happened luckily that I decided not to work hours anymore. I decided
Yeah.
when we create software, I want to be paid if someone is using my product and if I again generate or create value. What do I
Yeah.
mean? So if I create value, I want to have a fair share of this value I generate for my customers and partners. And that changed the whole mindset of how I do business, how I expand and create new things. Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's a really interesting point, and it's something that's you know, becoming more and more popular. People moving away from linking their time with their wealth, and it's something that is talked about in the almanac of Naval Ravikant, and he talks through it a lot. Where he urges people to kind of look at things which don't have a marginal cost of replication or production, And so, whether it's content like this, we might spend an hour recording this, but then, people might listen to this for 50, 100 hours. And so we've got a replication, a leverage effect on our time. And so I think that's a really great point that you've raised, trying to disconnect your time and your impact as well.
Yeah. Ability to scale. Yeah.
And Dylan, it's perfect what you say. And you need to spend more time in advance to understand your customers and their needs to do this type of work. And that's what I loved in my first company already, to understand with whom do I work and what makes him successful. So I like the big picture of the hero and the guide. So I am always the guide. I'm never the hero. And my customers are the heroes, and I try to serve and support them to become better heroes, while understanding what does it mean to be a hero. And this is really driving all my efforts and all my success, making other people successful.
You're facilitating that success for them, pretty much. That's what you're doing. You're a facilitator, right? Yeah.
And Jam, what really helped me was our Harvard classes about a willingness to pay, creating value. I did it in the past, but sometimes I was not aware about all the concepts. I just did it. So, but nowadays, what changed having the classes together with you is even more understand where do we create new value,
create the value,
absolutely, and how to provide this value to our partners, and that changed even more my perspective, but also how I start new companies, more focusing on the value we create. Not just automate things, not just simplify things, not just having a good impact. No, let's create new value, which was not there before.
Yeah. So talking about new value, Florian, so we like to understand a little bit more of the product that you're currently working on and selling in the market. And you're talking about also going globally as well, so give us a bit more information to what kind of products. I know you're working on fintech area, and so like to know a bit more about your solutions.
Sure. So before I deep dive into single products, I will explain the general pattern we replicate. So the pattern is, there's a lot of data out there which is not usable today because it's not available in a digital way, so not accessible. So all my products, like the fintech where I started, begin with making data usable, available, that you can create value based on it. So my first company was a fintech company, and I was supporting this open banking trend in 2015. Open banking means making bank transactions and bank data, bank accounts accessible for tools and products. Because before open banking, only the bank itself could work with the data. And so we in Germany, we created some tools to make bank account data accessible, and we created an learning algorithm on top of that. Nowadays, you would say that's KI and AI and all that stuff, but we generated learning algorithms to solve problems. And the first problem we solved is a bank account switch. So if you decide you want to go to a new bank and you have this problem that you have to tell everybody, I have a new bank account number to collect direct debits or to get your income, your direct deposits, and so on and so forth. So that is a pain point for many people not switching their bank account. And we used the open banking data we just opened to automate the information flow to tell everybody who needs the information that you have a new bank account. Basically, by reading your old bank account, getting to know who needs the information, and then we build it an information flow. We told all the companies and your employer, hey, that Jam, for example, has a new bank account, please use the new bank account. It's a matter of 5 minutes instead of 3-4 hours manual work, writing many letters or emails.
Yeah. So you simplify that whole connectivity, I guess. Yeah.
It seems really technical. Sorry for the long explanation, but to put it in a bigger context, there was a pain point which prevented people from switching a bank account, and we made this 5 hours effort. We put it into 5 minutes, just using the data which is available and having the processes, the product on top of it. So the customer can do it by himself, but he needs only a few minutes, and that solved his pain point, but also solves the pain point of a bank, because they want to attract new customers, but they won't come if you don't solve this pain point. So it's a win-win situation where we could easily introduce a new product. And based on that, we introduced many more products which use the data of your bank account in an intelligent way to solve more and more problems.
So how did you actually come up? I mean, you're talking a few things here. Like one, you kind of listen to your customers, identify their problems, and also you're talking about understanding trends and looking at the data and looking at the trends. So how did you actually came up with this idea?
The initial idea, it was quite easy. I was working in a bank at these times, so I was familiar with the banking trends overall. But nevertheless, I asked the board, hey, why do we spend so much money for marketing to get new customers? But in the moment of truth, when the customer opened the bank account, we don't activate him. Activate means, for me, we don't help him using the new bank account as the core bank account where all his activity is done. And the reason was this pain point: the bank customer don't want to put all the efforts in switching his direct debit, switching his credit cards. So I just understood we are wasting money in marketing because we don't look the process to the end. And therefore I introduced the puzzle piece, which makes the whole value chain successful. And that's also the pattern, again, which I applied for all the other products and companies I created. Many times we have manual efforts, or we don't create the value which is possible because we don't do the last steps in a process.
Yeah. So kind of you build on the same formula to the other business.
Yes.
That's awesome. So I mean, you're talking about now you're in Germany, and any other part of in Europe that you're doing your business?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically, so if you look in detail, we are in way more companies than people know. So the fintech
Okay.
company is doing business in Europe, for example, but I have another company called Get My Invoices, and
Okay.
Get My Invoices is adding more value to the banking. So my mom always told me, there's a German saying, keine Buchung ohne Beleg, which means you need for bank transactions, you need the invoice, the receipt for accounting. That's a
Yeah.
usual saying. And these accounting support we created in Get My Invoices by fetching and collecting automatically all the invoices you need for your accounting, and you don't have to do manual work on that. And this product is a global product already. So we are in Australia, we are in all English-speaking areas in Europe, and North and South America already. We mostly partners are introducing our products. So it's not that
Yeah.
we have subsidiaries in these countries, but we love to work with partners with local knowledge to introduce our products in these areas. So that's what we have done in the past. But because of the Harvard network and the easy access to new countries to understand how companies, how people do business in several
Yeah.
companies, I'm on my way to explore where can we create subsidiaries. Like I
Yeah.
really love Australia. The few days I have been able to spend with you and other friends really opened an amazing world to me, where I see, hey, I can use my patterns, and hey, we have already great products which are easily usable. We don't even have to
Yeah.
adapt them. Easy
Yeah.
usable in Australia, but also other parts of this world. Yes.
Yeah. So you build a technology that you can easily scale any of these countries, and now
Yes.
you have the network as well to expand. Your set. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Excellent.
I just had a question, like
Sure.
from my perspective, starting so young. I just want to
Mhm.
know, did you ever have any doubt?
Um, no. Yes and no. So when I started my Fino, my company group today, um, I had a major decision, and I would love to share that. So when I grew up, and in my first company also, I was always responsible for the success. So I was more or less the driver who made sure that projects and products are successful. And I questioned myself when I started my company in 2015, do I want to be the responsible person, or should I trust the people I work with, and should I create a new way of working together? Um, Losing everything I learned so far. And it was the best decision I could ever made for myself and the team. So switching from a person who always knows what to do, who's really dedicated to all the efforts and the project goals, versus giving the freedom to the team to do the right things without controlling them. So really trusting them. That was, I can remember like it was yesterday, a phase in the starting weeks of the new company, and that changed myself, how I behave, and it really changed the way how we interact within the companies, because people love to take ownership and responsibility for their pieces in the whole setup, and that's so great to see. That was where I doubt myself. Is this the right way how I want to do business? And from this point, it's not about me anymore. It's about the teamwork and the best people to solve a problem. And afterwards, I never have doubt to be able to do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in retrospect, looking back, did you make the right decision?
Oh yes, oh yes.
Yeah.
So I think that's a major differentiator in the beginning of the company, but also nowadays. If you have only people working together with you who are taking over responsibility, we are way faster in decision making, because the person who is in charge, and it's no hierarchy. So the person who is in charge for something is taking the decision. He knows
Yep.
best what to do. So he is the best decision maker. And though we are really fast, and in the today you need to be fast, you need to take fast decisions, and we have less or few people who are able to create things where you normally need many people and big teams. But because they are in charge and they work so close together, we are more efficient than many others. And the people love it because you trust them. So people can
Yeah.
reach their full potential if you trust them, and they grow way faster, and they have way more passion if they are allowed to do what they want to do. So it's a
Yeah.
perfect, for me, it's a perfect setup to create something big.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's probably the only way that you can actually grow your business, letting that power, because that control that we believe that as a startup, like a founder, that we always think, hey, this is my baby. I know best for this baby. If I let it go, it may not grow the way that I want. But that's a really old way of thinking, right? So
Yes.
I mean, because as you said, hiring the right people, or getting right people involved in your business, in your team, and empowering them, and helping them to bring all their great ideas, right? Because
Yeah.
you're not the smartest guy, you realize soon. There are so many smart people around you, right? So how can you empower them, really open them up to create like a magic, I call it real magic in organization, when everyone, because 1 + 1 is 11, right? It's not like
Yeah.
2. So getting that the combination empowerment is such a magical thing. I mean, that's great that you discover that. I mean, we are all in the same journey. Yeah. That's awesome.
And coming back, thank you for mentioning that, because it feels just good and feels right. But again, coming back to Dylan's initial question, so you can only doubt if you are capable of doing something if you are in charge alone. If you have a good team around you, I believe you can achieve everything. If you have an open communication culture, if you know what you do, and you have the general trust that it's capable in terms of technology is possible to solve it, I trust my team 100% and we solve every issue. And that's such a good feeling to know that you are capable of achieving everything you want to do. That's mind-blowing, because there's nothing holding you back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really love how you put that. I think for me, what separates the growth of, big incumbents and startups is exactly what you said. By removing that bureaucracy, you allow people to have the freedom to express themselves and make decisions quickly. And it's something that the Amazon founder talks about a lot. Jeff
Bezos.
Bezos, he splits decisions into two types, type 1 and type 2 decisions.
Mhm.
And he says type 1 decisions are things you can't come back from. And type 2 decisions are, you can make a decision, but it's reversible. And he
Yeah.
said, any type 2 decision, I let basically anyone make those decisions. And so
Yeah.
that way he's pushing the decision making down the chain. And so these smaller teams can do a lot more. Otherwise, there's too much red tape and you plateau that growth curve. So I really like what you mentioned there.
Have you had any business that you thought, well, it's not working for me, and kind of move away? Like, I don't want to call that word failure, because every failure is actually a I call it's a learning thing. It's a great thing, right? So have you had any kind of opportunities to learn from some of the business that you thought maybe that's not the one for me right now?
Oh yes, oh yes. Again, totally honest, I do it every day. So I'm what I learned, there's a really good TED talk. I'm not sure which university made the analysis, but that helped me to see it not as failure, but as good try, as good learning. It's all about timing. So in the first 3 years, I think we came up every quarter with a new product, because I had a team which really loved to create new things, new products.
Yeah.
But what we recognized is that many times we created this product, we have been too early. So the environment, the people, the companies have not been ready to adapt and
Yep.
introduce our products.
Yeah.
So I think a really simple example is, remember early 2000s, I've been in university and I had classes about mobile commerce.
Okay.
But mobile
Yeah.
commerce 5 years before the iPhone. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't, I'm not sure if you can remember these times, but it was not
Yeah.
good. It was not fun. And
Yeah.
therefore, mobile commerce was not existing and not possible. And it needed time and the iPhone to be
Yeah.
easy accessible and easy usable. And I made so many mistakes, failures, where we created products where the world is not ready to use it at the moment. But I changed this pattern because I still do it. And maybe I share this story with you. If I have a new
Please.
idea today, I have an easy test if I'm ready or not, because I still have an idea every single day. And I tell the idea the next 10 people I meet. And if the
Okay.
first person is not having great eyes and smiling and want to have the product I'm talking about, I don't even tell the second person about the product. If I tell 10 people and I get 10 times of good feedback, I create the product.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? Because sometimes I realize I agree to a certain level, because it's about sometimes people don't get it, and some people are. That's the reason I ask. Do you talk to the same people? Because some people are always negative, right? Their glass is always other way around, right? So they don't want to. Everything is so negative, and also the other side, some people are very positive, and they don't want to. I don't want to tell Florian, it's a bad idea, right? I want him to try.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I also would
Yeah.
add, like, I want to get your opinion, because at Stanford we spoke about this idea that a lot of the game changers are actually non-consensus ideas. So ideas which most people think are bad ideas.
Yeah.
Let's take Airbnb as an example. Most people, when the founders of that talked to them and said, strangers are going to come and sleep on your lounge, people,
Yeah.
laughed at them. And, now look at it. It's a, booming business.
Mhm.
And so I want to get your thought on that.
Oh, that's perfect, because I did so many failures in the beginning because I didn't listen carefully. So
Yeah.
one example, when I created this account switching business, after 4 weeks, we had the first prototype. I went to the university here in town, and just asked everybody passing, do you want to try it? And I got, out of maybe 50, 100 conversations, I get nobody who wants to try it. Yeah. So, but nevertheless, at that moment, I changed my attitude and I told everybody, okay, no one will want to try the iPad in the beginning as well. So sometimes you have
Yeah.
just to create what you believe in.
Yeah. So, Florian, we know that you are a lifelong learner, and that's where we met at Harvard Business School doing OPM 2 years ago, and we continue to doing this education at Harvard, and then we are both graduating end of the year in October. Looking forward to that moment, and also we know that you also learning many other things and very exciting stuff. You mentioned we talked about some of the stuff. Are you able to share some of your other learnings and leave us with some insight to your continuous
Mhm.
learning,
Oh,
please?
yes, sure. So learning, as I mentioned a little earlier, getting more insights, getting a broader view, have the chance to continuously learn is really something which is important to me. So when I started my first company, it was university and MBA, and nowadays it's the going to Harvard, and I joined a few other things like Tony Robbins or YPO programs. And for me, today, the biggest learning curve is, on the one side, to understand how international business is working. So how do companies work in different countries, and therefore Harvard and Tony Robbins is amazing because you have folks all over the world. And the other insight I really deep dive is our behavior as humans, and how do we feel doing all these the work. How can I support my team and customers even more, understanding them deeply, how they interact, how they behave. So that are the two aspects for nowadays I'm really interested in, beside opening up new trends. So the arbitrage of identifying in one country where they are ahead and bringing these ideas and adapt them to my home country or any other country in the world. So these are the three topics overall. And to go a little in detail, if you like, so in Harvard, as you mentioned, or we discussed a little earlier, I learned so much about the topic of value, how we generate value, and value is perceived differently in different countries. So the Germans are really process oriented, and looking a lot of value
Yeah.
in processes. Other countries are totally different here. And I really, when I've seen what you do in Australia and how you work, and what is different in the way business is done in Australia, because you have to import, export everything, so totally different
Yep.
behavior. That's so great to see how you can adapt products on a global basis without efforts, but using the same technology you generated in one country, and you can solve totally different problems in other countries. That's a large learning curve for me. And looking back, what I learned, for example, with Tony, he's teaching proximity is power. And what does proximity is power? How does it reflect to what I mentioned just a second ago? You need to live in these countries to understand really their problems. And you need the proximity to people who are ahead in trends and imagination, what will be the next thing, what we might adapt as humans. And building this network of amazing people who inspire you, who you can learn from, and connect these peoples also, so be the connector for all of them. That's something I learned in the last 2-3 years, starting with Harvard, starting with Tony Robbins. This proximity is power thing. And the other thing what I mentioned is looking more into your own companies and into your teams. What really was a big learning for myself, having the first company now again for 10 years, nearly, we are 9 years young with Fino.
Yeah.
You see a development over the time. Your company is evolving. And the people, we are all getting older. I'm 9 years older compared to starting the company. So we need to remind ourselves what was the reason for starting, what was the
Yeah.
differentiator for us being successful on day one, and how can we repeat, Jeff Bezos is saying that, how can we repeat the story of day one continuously,
Yep.
reminding ourselves.
Yep.
And the really strong saying again of Tony Robbins was, you get what you tolerate. And
Uh-huh.
over the time, as leader, you got lazy. I am getting lazy with details, and reminding myself, you get what you tolerate. If I am lazy with myself, the whole organization will become lazy over time. And that was a really strong learning, which I have from many peers, to see how they are role models every single day, how they create their habits every single day, to be these role models, and to catch up with what made you successful and what habits should you keep versus learning new things. I'm really into learning new things and developing myself. But that's a really a big learning topic for me. How can I develop myself, not becoming lazy, and still be a role model
Keep that
for
hunger.
all the others? Yeah.
Fire in the belly. Yeah.
Yes.
So you just like as you describe, the very first day you start the business, you had that hunger right in you, right? You want to change the world, or change something that you saw opportunity. If you
Yeah.
lose that hunger, you actually, you lose that. Yeah.
That's I like this, the point, Jem, you make. It's not
Yep.
just about the hunger. Um,
Okay.
um, I think we are, as I know you, Jem, you are hungry, like unbelievable, and I really
I'm
love it.
always
And
hungry.
when I, yeah, and when I met Dylan, I recognized, hey, there's so much hunger as well. Um, but remember, what is really important to me is to enable my team to be in charge for themselves. And
Yep.
if you provide the space to others, sometimes they believe you are not as interested anymore because you provided space. If I'm
Good point.
as deep into the topic, I
Yep.
take the space away from them. So,
Yep.
but again, you have to give them the space, and in the same second, you have to explain, you get what you tolerate, how you
Yep.
normally would operate it, that they are able to
Yep.
grow, if they are not there, to grow in the same position, doing it their way, but not tolerating certain things, becoming lazy, for example. And that's
Yes.
really a learning curve,
Yep.
which was important for me. I'm still learning it. Um,
Yeah.
how can I keep
Yeah.
our expectation level, our ambition high without pushing
Yeah.
by
So how do
myself?
you do that? Florian, it's a really good question. I'm in a similar kind of situation, right? So I won't give that empowerment to my team, and so I don't want to be there always micromanaging people and just tell them what to do, because I know my team are capable, very capable, and they are experts in that industry or the area that what they do. So rather than
Mhm.
I tell them, because no point hiring someone smart and telling them what to do, right? You're
Mhm.
hiring someone very good, smart, because they are really capable of doing that stuff better than you, right? That's the reason you
Yeah.
hire most of the team. So how do you manage to have that balance? So I mean, it's a really good opener for me as well, because
Yeah.
what I do, like I go to work maybe 2-3 days a week rather than going every day, because I want to create that empowerment, let them feel like they are running the show, not me getting involved. And
Yeah.
you know but again, I don't want them to see me as aka I lost interest,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
how do you get that
Yeah.
fine balance?
Yeah. So I think there are two things. Yeah, I start and we dive into it. So in the last 2 years, I changed my way of leading, helping them. Um, to basically first, I create a common picture together with them. A
Yeah.
picture with what is our ambition, what do we want to achieve, because what I recognize, it's a failure, the fear for failure, that people set too low ambitions to themselves.
Yeah.
And Jam, you and I assume we have high ambitions to ourselves. And
Hope so. Yeah.
to to help others to have high ambitions as well. And for me, it's not just a different word, it's a total different feeling to have a goal and an ambition. Because a goal is something someone else is giving you a goal. So you
Yeah.
have to fulfill the goal of someone else. But for me, what I recognize, if we share the ambition, what do we want to achieve? How do you want to
Yeah.
feel if someone is using your product? How do you want to be seen if someone is using your product or service? That's a totally different thing. So I set the ambition together with the
Brilliant.
team, the whole
Yeah.
team, not just the leadership team.
Yeah.
And that helps really to increase what we deliver. So we over
Yeah.
deliver. Our ambition is to over deliver the expectation of the customers to us. And
Yeah. Okay.
that's step number one. And afterwards, it's just helping them fulfilling that. So removing the fear of being not able to fulfill and helping them fulfilling it. And one step I missed, the ambition has to be really high.
Yeah.
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 It's
Not easy
not,
to reach. Like it's a
yeah,
big, hairy, audacious goal, kind of.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the higher the ambition, the more proud
Yeah.
the team will be for achieving
Yeah.
it. And yeah, therefore it's really, if the team understands why it is so much fun to over deliver and to create this high ambition and to deliver this high ambition, most of the time it's working automatically. And but what happens if it's not done as easy, if the team is struggling or the team is doubting? I then work together with a team. So I'm not diving into it and show them that I can do it better. No, I'm as part of the team. I go back and work together with them on the really tough things to show them, hey, you are capable. We as team are capable of doing it together. That's not quite often, but if there are really big struggles, I'm still part of the team. That's the idea behind it. And I'm not far away, just measuring them on their success. No, it's always me as part of the team. And that helps me to run several companies where the companies themselves are in charge, but I never lose the touch, the feeling for what's going on because I'm part of the team. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. That's really valuable information. Something that we shared when you're here in Australia, you kind of believe in the universe have a plan for you, right? So I don't know, that's a vision or so what's the real plan for Florian?
Wow. That's for me a tough question because I already live the perfect life I can imagine because I work with amazing people. I have the possibility to not just learn and work in Europe. I have the possibility to be everywhere. So the plan you are talking about is in this way not existing because I believe in the flow. It will happen.
Yeah.
So I joined Harvard because of a recommendation of a friend I really trust and love. He was an OPM beforehand. I joined Tony because a recommendation of an OPM friend. I've been in Australia just because I met you. So it's the flow is bringing me in the right points. But nevertheless, what is the idea? I want to have more impact, and impact means for me to help more and more people to live the same life I do in terms of having the possibility to be an entrepreneur, to create product they love. I want to replicate and repeat that in a larger scale. Larger scale doesn't mean that the company has to have 1,000 people. I don't care about having many people working in a company, but I want to have even bigger impact. So today, my companies always solve one problem, one small piece, a puzzle piece. But if you look all companies I created, they are all solving a piece in the value chain between companies. And the long-term goal is to put the value chain together. So to really strive go for the big things. How might companies work together in 10 years? And that's
Yeah.
a big ambition I have. I want to automate and I want to build the infrastructure, the backbone,
Yeah.
how data is flowing between customers, back and forth, between end customers and the creators, the product producers of the products.
Yeah.
And I have many ideas in mind, but it's a matter of timing. When can you introduce something? But all the companies I created so far are puzzle pieces which over the time I can create together. To give you some examples, if you look onto a big company nowadays, all the departments in these companies are not working together. So the financial department is not talking to the marketing department. The marketing department is not talking to sales a lot. The field force and customer service is not really talking to the marketing department. And when you look on data flowing, so the knowledge, the data knowledge of the company, it's not transferred. So
Yeah.
the marketing knows the leads, but the accounting has to recreate the database of all customers. So they are not talking to each other. That's a big problem,
Yeah.
but I cannot solve this problem because that's within one company. Too much effort
Yeah.
because I had to go to every single company. But what I can solve is how companies interact between companies. So I call it the cross-company flow. If I make
Yeah.
accounting data flow between two companies, if I make offering data flow, financial data flow, we can really automate the way we do business between all the companies we are working with. And that's a big picture I'm working on. How can we automate the data flow? So let data work for us and not let people capture data which is available at another place, but nobody knows. Yeah. So that's a big picture to create some of the
Fantastic.
infrastructure for doing business in the future, and not just
Yeah.
in Europe. I would love to connect many
Global.
places in the world, because again here it's about learning. I love to spend time in Australia. I love to spend time in different
Yeah.
areas of this world and learn how can we connect
Yeah.
all these pieces and the people.
Yeah. And also that technology give you the opportunity to travel around the world and understand, as you said, the people, different demographics, culture, all that stuff, so yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic. But as a person, what's your vision? I mean, that's more your professional vision, right?
Yeah.
How do you see Florian as a human being?
Wow. Again, a really tough question.
The tough
Um,
question.
I would love to. So I'm happy already. So if
Yeah.
you would ask me to summarize, have I achieved everything I want to achieve? I would say check mark. Hey, I'm quite happy. What is the next step? The next step would be giving the possibility to run companies, to create products to even more people. So I would
Yeah.
love. Last year, I came up with a plan. I want to have 100 companies, small companies, within the
Wow.
next 10 years.
Wow.
Just to have a possibility to work with more and more amazing people. I love
Yeah.
to work and learn from these people. When I look in the next generation, though, my kids are 16, my son is 16, my daughter is 13. I would love to see how they build companies, how they think about business and sustainability and what is in their mind. So for me, I'm in the phase having high ambitions, but also giving back in terms of giving people
Fantastic.
the room and the space to grow and
Yep.
to create. That's my
Yep.
focus. So learning, growing, and giving the space for
Giving back
others
and yeah.
to go
Yeah.
grow as more active part of giving back. I'm too young. I feel too young for only switching
Absolutely.
in a giving back mode. So it's more the giving back by enabling and providing the space and the room to grow and create what they believe they would love to do.
Yep. That's
Mm.
fantastic.
And you're talking about empowering the younger generation, and so I kind of want to get your opinion. Looking back on your journey, is there anything you would do differently, or any advice that you would give to your younger self if you were to go on this journey again?
Oh, that's again a good one. So in general, I'm really proud of every single step I learned. There are many steps which I did, which might not be necessary, or I did things too long instead of moving ahead. But being in a rush on the other side, just rushing
Yeah.
from one learning to the next would not be enjoyable at all.
Yeah.
So I think doing waves and cycles is really helpful. What changed, Dylan? What changed from the early Florian to today is I value time, not
Yeah.
just my
Yep.
time, especially the time of people I talk
Family.
to.
Yeah.
I value their time way higher than I did before. So what do I mean? When I started my Pheno, so 9 years ago, I still struggled to give direct personal feedback because I always tried to be polite and
Yep.
not to hold back, but to be polite and respectful for the other. What I learned over the years is being polite and spending a lot of time in making the point is not fair for the both of us. So speaking out what you think and believe and what you expect is so valuable, but most people nowadays don't do it. So I would give myself the advice, be more on the point.
Yeah.
But again, now I'm older. I have my experience. I know what I can do and what I can't do. So it's easier to bring things on the point. The young Florian only he had to learn and learn and learn. So sometimes it's difficult if you are young and if you are directly on the point because people think, hey, you should have more respect. So it's
Yeah.
a hard recommendation, but value time of others and
Yeah.
push things forward um, is what I would recommend to myself. Be even more pushy and a little less polite.
That's fantastic, Florian. We've been talking for nearly an hour and a half, so
Oh, really?
we'll
Wow.
wrap it up now. And I suppose I just, in a very short sentence, I just want your answer. We've talked about your journey. Do you feel successful now?
Oh yes, I feel successful because Especially because I see the people around myself who are successful and happy. And I get the feedback of the people using our product. So I feel the impact. I see the impact. Yes, I feel successful. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's perfect. And I suppose, as part of this journey that we're on, this quest for success, we also want to identify some of the key ingredients that build a successful life. So I've been taking some notes on the key things that you've been talking about, and I want to run through them. So I think the first one that I took down was, for you, success is really about how can you make impact for as many people as possible, and having fun while you're on that journey. And so I think, it kind of comes down to leverage as well, in trying to impact as many people as possible. And I think
Yes.
I totally agree with that. And then the next thing I have, which we spoke about at so many times during this conversation, was giving freedom to your employees, your staff, and giving them the ability to make decisions and explore. And I think, sharing that vision with them and letting them execute and do things the way that they want to, I think is also really powerful, because you're empowering your team, and it's not just you anymore. You're removing yourself from the equation and letting
Yes.
things exponentially scale.
Yes.
And I think the other one is, you go with the flow. You said something when you were talking early on, don't try so hard to pick an idea or find an idea. Just kind of go with the flow. And as you said, problems pop up. And then that kind of ties into the next one of being really customer centric. Listen to your customers, listen to their problems, and go that way, rather than trying to hear, this is what I want to do, and then now trying to find customers. Instead, go to customers, look at their problems, and build on their problems to build a successful business. And I think the final one is, continuous learning. Always being on this journey to learn more, because where no one can and have all the knowledge, but I think the pursuit of knowledge is something which is so refreshing and keeps you going. And the last one, you just spoke about, is valuing people's time. And I think that's really important, especially in building relationships and creating success.
Yeah. So something I really like about you, Florian, that your hunger that you have for continuous learning, because you're very special. When you think of, a lot of business people, successful entrepreneurs, they have a bit of an ego, right? Like, saying, hey, I know everything. I'm very successful. I've done this, I'm the best, kind of thing. But you're kind of a total opposite. Even you achieve such a great things in your life, and you're very happy in terms of what you achieve, you still have that, uh, willingness to learn, willingness to learn, and you always have that humbleness, one thing, when we were driving around, you said other day, hey, I really learned a lot from Dylan, so one thing that so it's interesting to see that, you didn't see him as a young kid that trying to learn from you. You saw the opportunity to learn from him. So that's a real a special skills that you have, so again, talking about time, thank you so much for taking amazing time with us. We value your time, and not just for us for learn, whoever we share this podcast, who watch this podcast, got so much to learn from your experience.
Absolutely. And if you aren't already following us, follow us at the Quest for Success pod, and give us a 5-star review on this episode. And on that note, Florian, thank you so much, and we'll see you guys later.